Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. For today's tutorial we are going to be making this ring top. Do not mind how I'm wearing it. I was wearing a bra under. You don't need to wear a bra, but I was wearing a bra and I just had to tuck it under my bra, but it looks amazing without a bra. Now when you get your PDF pattern, you are going to see a little section that shows you the layout of your PDF pattern, and this will differ from pattern to pattern, but usually that shows you how your pages need to be stuck together when you assemble your pattern. We also do have layers printing available for this pattern, meaning that you can print one or two sizes that you want. Now you want to make sure that you are printing at 100% scale or actual size. Remember that you need to just snip off the right side of the border and the bottom and then overlap it with the next page. Continue to do that until you are done. Remember that this pattern has a seam allowance included. It is half an inch seam allowance included. You want to be using 4-way stretch fabric, ideally something with about 50 to 70%. Don't go way more than 70%. This fabric that I'm using specific here has around 60 to 70% stretch percentage, but 50 will also do. Now what I'm doing is I'm just taking my pattern pieces and I'm just putting them and I'm cutting them. Remember, when you're cutting your stretch fabric, you want to cut on, you want to make sure that you align your pattern pages, your pattern pieces on the selvage, meaning that the stretch of your fabric should be running horizontally. Over here I have my sleeves and also my front pieces and my back pieces. You are also going to need a ring, an O-ring for this pattern. So what I'm doing is I'm putting my back and my front pieces right sides together and I'm pinning them at the shoulders, and then I am just going to go to my sewing machine and just stitch them down. You can use your sewing machine for this part. You will just need to use your straight stitch. I'm also going to be using my serger because I have a serger, but if you don't have a serger, that's perfectly fine. It is still going to work absolutely amazing with your sewing machine, so don't worry about that. Just pin it at the shoulders and then we're going to complete the straight stitch. Alright then you guys, when I'm done, I am just going to wrap up my sleeve and I'm going to be attaching it to my top. Now, you want to make sure that those two notches at the back line up with your back, the two notches on your back. On the top, the one notch lines up with the front and the center notch lines up with the shoulder seam that you have on your top. You will see me do that right now. When I am done pinning everything in place, I'm just going to take it to my sewing machine and I'm just going to stitch it using a straight stitch. You can do this part using a straight stitch, but when I'm done, I'm going to take it to my serger and just serge it because it's going to cut off the excess. But if you didn't have a serger, just take it to your sewing machine, stitch along like a straight stitch, and then go ahead and just snip off the excess seam allowance. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am just going to pin my side seams, the underarm right over there, side seam. I'm remembering that my back piece is slightly shorter than my front piece. So what I want to do is I'm going to stretch, I'm going to make sure that I'm matching up my notches, and meaning that I'm going to have to ease my front piece to my back piece. So as you are stitching, just make sure that your notches are aligned and you are stretching. Most of the ease is going to happen between the two notches anyway. So as long as your notches match, everything will be perfectly fine. So I'm just pinning the armhole, and then I'm going to continue with a straight stitch right over there. Now I am sorry for this. I forgot to. No, I didn't forget to film that part. I almost forgot, but I just didn't catch it on the camera for some odd reason. I do apologize for that. So now to hem the shirt, I'm just going to fold it in once, and I'm going to stitch it down using a straight stitch. You can also use a twin needle. I did first start with using a twin needle, but I realized that it was the wrong twin needle. You want to make sure that you are using a stretch twin needle for this part. So yeah, but I'm just going to use a normal zigzag stitch to just stitch everything down. When I am done stitching it down, I'm going to come back and cut off the excess seam allowance that's going to be hanging over, which is going to be shown after the seam where I stitch everything in place. So now I'm just trimming off the extra seam allowance that's hanging off. I want to get it as close as I can to my zigzag stitch, and that's what we're going to do to him. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to match my shoulder seams together, and I'm going to make a notch in the center there to mark my center back. I'm taking my binding and I'm also folding it in half, and then I'm going to go ahead and make a notch on that binding. So at this point, I was just measuring how much I'm going to need for my binding. You don't need to do this part because your binding has been measured for you, but let's say you wanted to know, you would just want to make sure that you make your binding about 80% the size of your total neckline for what you needed. So the binding is going to be like shorter, and the reason why it's shorter is because when you're wearing it, you want it to not gape. You want it to just stick to your body, to your neckline, as close as possible. So that's why we make it shorter. All we have to do is we're just going to stretch as we stitch it along. So I'm folding it into half, then I'm just going to make a notch in that center. Again, I'm so sorry for being out of frame, and then I'm going to go ahead and just stitch it onto my neckline. So for this part, if you're using a sewing machine, you would do this part using your zigzag stitch, but I did mine using straight stitching, and I took it to my serger. So when you're sewing this along, all you have to do is just stretch it. So at this point, you're not going to be able to see it because my binding was under, but just stitch it and stretch it along as you stitch. Okay, and then I switched it. Now my binding is on top. So I'm just stretching and stitching, stretching and stitching, stretching and stitching, stretching and stitching. That's all you have to do for this part. So now, to finish off our binding, what I'm going to do is I am just going to fold my binding over onto the seam allowance, right? I'm just folding it and I'm pinning it in place. As soon as I'm done pinning everything into place, you don't need to pin it. As you get used to it, you will not need to pin. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to stitch right there in the ditch. And for this part, I'm going to use a straight stitch. So even if you're sewing on your sewing machine, you need a straight stitch for that part. So I just stitched in the ditch, and I'm so sorry for choosing guys. I'm literally running out of space, and I'm going to glue on top like stitching along. like for my whole ring. I'm gonna make the channel into a whole ring, and I'm just gonna go. Yes, I'm just gonna go over there and just hold it once, right? And I'm just gonna stitch it down. If you want to, you can hold it in twice and stitch it down. But I'm just gonna hold it in once and just stitch it down. All I'm trying to do is to just make the channel. So stitch it again. It's such a simple pattern to make. Like you can open it a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and just inside my channel, and just go to the other side. And you want to get some pliers to use it. I didn't know pliers to use it because it was my first time doing it with them, right? So definitely get some pliers to use it. Then what we're gonna do is we just go ahead and just hem our armhole. Now look at our armhole and our wrists. So how we hem our wrists is we just go from inside into the wrong side, once like that. Just hold it in half an inch thick down, and then just stitch it down. So with this pattern, I did make the sleeves a bit longer. So on your pattern, the sleeves are gonna be a little bit longer than what you see in the video. Just go ahead and just stitch it down, hold the zigzag stitch. So when you get to this part, you are now just like that. Everything is perfectly fine. So this is actually the last scene of the video. I hope that you really enjoyed this video and you found it helpful. And if you did buy the pattern, oh, you can get the pattern at my Etsy store. It is at her patterns on Etsy. Make sure that you do leave a review and take a picture for us to see how the top looks on you. And yeah, we are done. Thank you.